What was the biggest plot twist that happened in your life?
Silent scan.
Found out that I had a terminal cancer 2 days before moving to my apartment and starting my last year of college. Later find out that I actually have a very treatable cancer. Best plot twist of my life.
Silent scan.
My uncle is actually my father. I'm not referring to my mother's brother. Backstory. My mom slept with 2 brothers at separate times. In the 70s they could only give a blood test for paternity. I didn't find out until I was 14 when we all took a DNA test who my actual father was. My father slept with my mother's cousin, so I have a browson. My aunt, by marriage twice, had kids by 2 of my dad's brothers. They're half siblings and half cousins as well. She also slept with several of my dad's other brothers. He's 13th of 15 with only 1 girl. Wait, what?
Silent scan.
I injected heroin for years, but never shared needles. After I had quit, a woman I was with took a stip panel and gave me the worst news, that she had Hep B. My heart was broken for her and myself. For 2 months I was sure this was the case, and that I'd be dealing with us for the foreseeable future. It then turned out that while she was a brilliant person, with English as her 3rd language, she didn't realize that negative meant she was in the clear. When she told me, I almost had a breakdown.
Silent scan.
When I was around 8 I was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy and some severe heart issues. Everyone kinda just assumed I would die any day after that. Well, come 8 years later I was still here, and my doctors pretty much gave up on figuring out what is wrong with me, so my parents decided to get a second opinion. We went to Mayo Clinic and I was easily diagnosed with posterior orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, something that is easily treated through exercise. In my case, POTS varies a lot, and can be much more difficult to fight for others, the opposite of what my doctors told me to do. After that I was just like, shit, now I have to plan my future.
Silent scan.
Started dating a girl. Her single mom meets my single dad. They mingle. Hard. Girl sleeps with my best friend. Messy breakup. Now my ex-girlfriend is my stepsister. Life is a sick BTCH. Edit. Forgot to add the icing to the cake. They got married on the night of my senior bowl. Edit 2. No, we didn't hook up after, you sick bastards. Lol. But thanks for all of the support, guys. It was a hard thing to go through for sure, but things like this entire thread of comments makes it all okay. You guys the true MVPs. If you played your cards right you could have ended up as your own grandpa.
Silent scan.
Wife was pregnant with our 3rd and last planned child. We ended up in the ER as she was miscarrying. The nurse cried because the fetus was not viable, so there was nothing to be done. It was horrible. One of the first times I felt completely helpless as an adult. Well, turns out the miscarry was actually her body making room for twins. The girls are 5 now. Went from losing 1 to gaining 2. Edit. I apologize for poor phrasing. I typed it late on mobile. Let me clear up some things. The couple previous ultrasounds only showed single baby. There was only a single heartbeat. The miscarry symptoms, horrible cramping, pressure, blood loss, was her body preparing for twins. We did not lose a baby. We were told we were losing it by doctors and had accepted that. In the end we gained 2, but not without another scare. The position of fetus B was in a dangerous location that would make overall development in C-section very dangerous. We were told for the 2nd time that we'd more than likely lose a baby. My wife was put on bed rest and went on to carry the twins to full term. The unlikely twin is named Grace. Grew up with a normal loving family. 3 brothers, mom and dad. Plot twist: mom cheated and 1 brother has another father. I then learned my dad has been depressed and putting up with my mom for us kids, and wants a divorce. Another plot twist: dad tries to escape depression by flying airplanes which he loves and ends up crashing. Now my mom is a destructive alcoholic.
Silent scan.
I was transferred to a division. Within a few months my new supervisor and I hated each other. She was incompetent and I spoke up when she screwed up. She made my life hell and finally decided to give me a job that she thought would make me quit. I packed up my stuff in a box and asked for help moving to my new desk. She said she didn't have anyone to spare. I was carrying my box and didn't see a spill on the floor, ironically, just outside her office. I slipped, fell, and broke my knee. I am on permanent disability, very legitimately, received a huge settlement, lifetime healthcare, retired early. She was demoted, then fired, partially due to the way she handled my case. This all happened a few years ago. Recently when my husband and I were grocery shopping, I saw her in this store. I didn't want to see her, but my husband caught her eye and gave her a big thumbs up. She looked pissed.
Silent scan.
Parents split when I was little. Came out to my mom and stepdad when I was 13. Phoned my dad up when I was 16 because it was time I had to let him know. Dad, I've got something to tell you. Whatever it is, I love you. I'm gay. So am I. What?
Silent scan.
I met a girl through POF and dated her for a year. She lived 6 minutes up the street from me, so we saw each other quite often. Both of us were quite introverted, so we mainly only hung out with each other. We both considered the relationship to be serious and exclusive. Anyway, right from the start of the relationship, I noticed that she would text this one guy pretty frequently. I asked her about him, and she told me that he was her tattoo artist. Just to be snoopy, I checked out the website of the place she gets her tattoos done. Sure enough, there was a tattoo artist there with the same first name as the guy in her phone, but the last name was different. I asked her about it, and she quickly called me out on being paranoid, and how it was ridiculous to think that she would lie to me. I agreed, it was pretty paranoid of me. Maybe 5 months later into the relationship, I'm on Facebook, and I decide to search the name of the guy in her phone. A profile comes up in the same small city we both live in, but there is no profile picture or anything. I decide to bring it up with her again, because now there is 2 Facebook profiles. One who is actually a tattoo artist, and one who has the same name that is in her phone. She freaks out on me for bringing it up again, and tells me that I'm crazy. I agreed, but just wanted a straight answer. She told me that I had nothing to be worried about. I apologized, and we got over it. About a year into the relationship, I found her on POF. I would periodically go on there to see if she recreated her profile. We both deleted our profiles. I found a profile that I thought might be hers, but obviously no pictures. I catfished it, and it turned out to be her. She was back on POF and looking for guys. I had all the evidence I needed, and I was going to confront her with it the next day and break up with her. However, I thought that if I was going to break up with her, I was going to message this Facebook profile I had found that matched the name in her phone, just out of curiosity. Plot twist. I message the guy. He gets back to me immediately. We converse, and it turns out that he is her boyfriend. I had been her second boyfriend the entire time. She met him 2 months before she met me. She bounced back between me and him for an entire year. Neither me or him knew about each other. He saw my name in her phone once, and she said that I was her tattoo artist. Every time I ever called her out, I was right. Every time she was gone mysteriously at night, she was with him. Every time she said she was hanging out with a friend of hers, she was with him. She doesn't actually have any friends. It was always him. Anyway, we both broke up with her the next morning and met the next day to have a beer. Haven't spoken with him since.
Silent scan.
Bill was a self-made millionaire by the time he was 18 years old. That was in the mid-80s. He has been one of my best and certainly most influential friends. 25 years ago he married a girl that I did not like or trust. I told him as much, but he married her weird ass anyways. A few years ago she ran off with a guy she met at a roller skating rink. He apparently wooed her with his zooming around or whatever, and Bill was single again. He met a girl and insisted I meet her. Bill remembered that I had not approved of his ex. We met for lunch at one of those awful buffets. This girl was beautiful. She used English like a scalpel. Working on PhD. She was awesome. But I noticed little things about her. She had obviously been to finishing school. Then why did she have fingernail polish on her cuticles and a dress from a 1985 resale rack? There was just a lot of details that didn't add up, and Bill was getting ready to marry her. I told Bill that I thought she was hiding something, but I didn't care. This gal was high class and high-bred. I told him she was great. Bill hadn't met her parents till the wedding. It was at their beach house in Destin. It turns out that my friend hadn't told his new bride of his formidable wealth, but she had been hiding the fact that her parents are alleged billionaires. Bill deserves someone like her.
Silent scan.
January 2011. Wife pregnant, good health, mom alive. March 2011 through January 2012. Miscarriage, MS diagnosis for the wife, cousin hit by train, mom passed away from pancreatic cancer, wife has affair with guy she met at funeral. February 2012. Wife threw me out of the house on Valentine's Day.
Silent scan.
I will try to keep this as short as possible. My grandfather left my grandmother for another man after 35 years of marriage, and the raising of 2 kids, a daughter, mom, and a slightly mentally disabled son, Drunkle. It messed my grandmother up pretty bad. Fast forward 16 years. My mom dies from liver failure. Me and my kid sister are young and broke. Grandmother is old and broke. Grandfather pays for everything. Nobody says anything to him. No thanks, no condolences, nothing. I want to go see him and talk to him, thank him, and see how he's doing. I ask my grandmother where he lives, on the grounds that he told me he had something important he needed to tell me. Pulled out of my ass, obviously, but grandmother bursts into tears and confesses that grandfather is not my mom's real father. She had a whirlwind romance with some traveling jackass Common who left her as soon as he could. Grandfather offered to marry grandmother and raise my mom as his own. Mom never knew. I was stunned. My grandmother was always really judgmental of other people, and looked down on anyone else in this exact situation. She was sobbing at this point, and I snapped at her to stop because blood never really played all that heavily into what me and my sister considered family, and that she shouldn't consider it either. Anyway, that's how I found out one of my family's biggest secrets on accident, and then promptly didn't give a shit. Neat plot twist, though.
Silent scan.
I'll share my grandma's, one of my favorites. As a young woman, she worked at a humble bakery in a small town in Australia. American soldiers were stationed in her town as they readied for deployment in the Pacific War of World War II. One day, a soldier from Nick came in and tried to order something not on the menu. His accent was very thick, and she, being a Scottish immigrant, could not understand him. She was very embarrassed, but kept trying to assist him. After a couple minutes like this, the soldier got very impatient and started cussing and insulting my grandmother, the bakery, the town, etc. Well, my grandmother, a proud woman of small stature but surprising strength, came around the counter and punched that man hard in the chest. I'm told she broke one of his ribs, but that seems extreme. She definitely knocked him over. Fellow soldiers lifted the stunned soldier off the ground and back to the base where they told their co the story. The co panicked about ruining relations with the town and pointed to the nearest man. He asked where he was from, Illinois, and hearing no accent, sent him back to the bakery to apologize on behalf of the army. The man did a wonderful job and made a good impression. And he went back to that town after the war. And he married my grandma and they lived happily ever after. They eventually moved back to the States, but she refused to ever visit Nick.
Silent scan.
Had a mad crush on this girl in high school. We spent a lot of time together in school but not outside because her mom was strict and girl had a boyfriend. We part ways after graduation, meet a couple years later, find out she had a mad crush on me, too, we hook up. I find out she is juggling several guys and I get pissed. I stop talking to her for a month, she tells me she misses me, I ignore her, she dies in a car accident the next day. Messed me up for years.
Silent scan.
Entered seminary planning to be rabbi. 5 years later I'm an atheist, a teacher, and dating a Catholic. Whoops.
Silent scan.
Had a child with a woman I didn't love. Gave up my entire life to move states to try and give it a go. Became depressed and made the decision to move back home after realizing it just wasn't working. She filed for child support, and thus began the gauntlet of her parents, reminding me of how I abandoned my son and family, and that I was a piece of shit. Ex wouldn't let me talk to my son unless I paid child support plus additional expenses, which I did because what did I know about being a father at 23? Still made monthly drives to see my son because I loved him. She became increasingly addicted to drugs and moved my son from state to state, turning to family members she could leech from. Parents told me I would never see my son again because I don't deserve him. I sued for sole custody, won, and am currently owed $60,000 in back child support and lawyer fees. She's been held in contempt 4 times, and we have a compliance hearing coming up on the 10th. She doesn't attempt to speak to my son, now 6, he wasn't yet 4, the last time they spoke, and current girlfriend of 5 years, is referred to as mom.
Silent scan.